Wow! Was there a better way to bring the curtains down on Tokyo 2020 Olympics than to watch the greatest marathoner of all time, the world record holder and the only human to have run a marathon in under 2 hours, a legend of our time, Eliud Kipchoge, not only retained his Olympic title that he won in Rio 2016, but to do it so spectacularly. We must count ourselves privileged to be alive at this time to witness a great man write his way into the annals of history. He is dominance personified, yet always with grace. Wow, what a man. Eliud shall not escape our lips for generations to come. His win left a sweet taste in what had been thus far an underwhelming outing for Team Kenya, especially because we lost our stranglehold on the 3,000 meter steeplechase. But even in our worst day, Kenya is still atop the African pile. After all, in the land of the blind, the mono eye becomes the king. Well done to the men and women who represented the red, black, white, and green colors of our national flag. We thank you for your service. But while the medals have been in short supply, leadership lessons to take away from Tokyo 2020 were in abundance. I shall be doing a series on some of the lessons we can take home and apply to make us better leaders from Tokyo 2020. And I am happy that you can join me on this journey. When I was in high school, I was a fairly good athlete, believe it or not. My specialty was in the 800 meters. Had I paid more attention and dedication to this discipline, I would probably be giving Rudisha a run for his money. Pun intended. I made it to the national levels, but then I met boys from the Rift Valley who made it abundantly clear and in no uncertain terms that I ought to do what I'm currently doing now, if you know what I mean. And whenever there was a competition, the highlight of every track event calendar is the relay race, the 4x100 and the 4x400 meters. In this race, you have 4 talented individuals running. In the 4x100, each individual has to run a leg of 100 meters and hand over the baton to the next person. And in the end, the whole team wins. No matter how talented you are or you think you are, you cannot run a relay all by yourself. You just have to run your leg, hand over the baton, and get out of the way. There are leadership lessons that I want to share with you, especially in the context of a relay. Lesson number 1. The most important part of a relay is in handing over the baton. The most important part of a relay is in handing over the baton. Races are won or lost in the handing over of the baton. If you drop the baton, the race is over. If you hang on to it too long, you will be disqualified. It doesn't matter how talented the team is. It is how effective you are at the exchange that determines if you win or lose or get disqualified. The US team was favored to win in Tokyo 2020 in the 4x100 men. But the passing of the baton was too slow, leading to loss of valuable time. In Rio 2016, again, the US team were disqualified for holding on to the baton for too long. The US always has a depth of talent. They are almost always favorites for gold in every major competition, but they haven't won gold in the Olympics since the year 2000. And the problem has always been in the baton exchange. Either somebody drops it or holds on to it too long, or the exchange is too slow. Similarly, the most important part of leadership is in passing of the baton. It is in how effectively you hand over leadership to the next generation. When you receive the baton of leadership, remember you will hand it over someday. I have often said, when you board, remember you shall alight. And therefore, the very first order of business when you assume a leadership position is to find a successor and start training them. Start training your replacement, because one day you will have to step out and hand over the baton. And if the greatness that you have and the things you have accomplished as a leader, if they die with you, then you failed because you did not pass them over to the next generation. Now, it takes courage and maturity of leadership to train someone who will take your place. And mature leaders are in short supply. But lesson number one, the most important part of a relay is in passing of the baton, and so is in leadership. Lesson number two, do not hold on too long to the baton. Do not hold on too long to the baton. Now, in the Tokyo 2020, in the women's 4x100 meters, Jamaica carried the day, anchored to victory by Shericka Jackson. However, there was a nervous wait for confirmation of results, as it seemed like Brianna Williams, who ran the first leg, may have run herself out of the allowed area. It was felt like she had held on to the baton a tad too long. What a relief it was for the ladies when they were given a clean bill of health. Another 1 meter and they would have been disqualified. All that talent notwithstanding. In leadership, it is important that you do not hold on to the baton for too long. When your leg is done, exit the stage, because you run out of steam and you start running out of ideas. Even God supplies grace for the leg you are meant to run. If you overstay, you become a liability to the rest of the team. Unfortunately, in Africa, overstaying, especially in leadership, is almost considered a virtue. No wonder we don't even win much in the relays. There are leaders who, upon receiving the baton, they think that it is their birthright to occupy the leadership office that they hold, and that it is their divine responsibility to prevent anyone else from occupying the office. Think about this for a moment. Paul Biya, the president of Cameroon, has been in power for 46 years. 7 as a prime minister and 39 years as president, since 1982. 2, long before my father and my mother met and even hatched plans to conceive me. Nguema Mbasogo of Equatorial Guinea has been president for 42 years, since 1979. President of my neighboring country, Uganda, President Yoweri Museveni, has been president for 35 years. As a matter of fact, in the last general election, his main rival, Bobi Wine, was half his age. Mugabe was president for 30 years before the baton was forcefully wrestled from his hand. These and other examples are indicators of everything that is wrong with Africa. If you look at most countries where the leaders have overstayed, there is stunted economic growth, there is civil unrest commonplace, and the rule is majorly tyrannical, which was not always the case. Most of these leaders started very well and they did their first leg pretty good, but then they held on to the baton for too long. They ran out of steam and started running out of ideas, and the only way they can continue holding on to the baton is through tyranny. What a shame. In advanced democracies like the United States, the UK, there's a term limit of how long you can stay in office. In the US, it's 2 terms of 4 years. No wonder it's a developed nation, because they understood, the founders of the nation and the authors of the Constitution understood all too well. There's no man who has a monopoly of ideas. That's why do what you can in 4 years or 8 years, then hand over the baton to somebody else to take it to the next level. And if you cannot accomplish that which you intended to accomplish in 8 years, even if we give you 80, you will not accomplish. Hand over the baton. Overstaying in leadership was, and always will be a sign of failed leadership. Nelson Mandela, considered the greatest leader that Africa has produced, only served for 1 term and then voluntarily handed over leadership to the next generation. He understood that you run your leg, hand over the baton, exit the field. That's the only way your team is going to win. Jesus of Nazareth, he started an organization at the age of 30 and was the CEO for only 3.5 years, and handed the baton over to the 12 disciples that he had been mentoring. He had been pouring himself into them, so much so that at some point he said that, I no longer call you servants, for servants do not know what the master doeth, but I call you friends, for all that I have known of my Father I have made known unto you. In other words, he prepared his own replacements and he poured himself into them. No wonder, more than 2,000 years after he left, an organization that he started with 12 has over 3 billion followers today. All that has happened in his absence. He understood that you do not hold on too long to the baton. So number 1, the most important part of a relay is in the handing of the baton. Number 2, do not hold on too long to the baton. You run out of steam and run out of ideas. Number 3, the last lesson I want to share with you, the person receiving the baton does not look back. He stretches his hand expecting to receive. This is especially the case in the 4x100 meters. The recipient of the baton does not have the luxury to look back. He or she only stretches his hand, hoping and believing and trusting that he will receive the baton. The youth of Africa are frustrated. because they have been stretching their arms, waiting and hoping to receive the baton. But the baton has not been forthcoming. The ones in possession of the baton have run home with it and hidden it in a safe and engraved their name on it. They have privatized the baton. The young people are getting restless, and some are turning back and taking initiative to pick the baton themselves, as it was in the case with Robert Mugabe. It is your divine responsibility as a leader to hand over the baton. You owe it to the next generation. It is said that while power is taken, leadership is given. You owe it to the next generation. Remember those 3 lessons, and I will be with you in part 2 of this series. Adios, muchachos.